GaulCast. I'm Arto,
And I'm Branogara.
and we are here to talk about the gods today.
This episode is called Oh My Gods, Part 1. So we're going to be doing a three-part episode, and that three-part episode is going to be broken up into the gods, ancestor worship and heroes, and the spirits. We will have a guest next week to help us with ancestor worship and heroes. And let's get started.
Yeah. So I have notes here. Gonna try not to read off them verbatim, but we're both tired because you guys can actually see us for once.
Yeah, we're giving this a try. We're gonna see how much whether or not our listeners like being able to watch the audio visual. And you get to see how tired we both actually are 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Because it is late when we record these.
Yeah, it's late for me. You're just waking up. I'm getting ready to go to sleep.
And here we are. Dedication.
All right. Well, let's start this off with I know we've said this in a couple past episodes, but Gaul is home to between 300 and 500 deities. There's different technicalities here and there. It could be the same god here, just with a different spelling in their name, whatever the case may be. And a lot of this is due to localized animism. It's happening already.
It's already happening.
Localized animism. The one example I bring up the most is Arduina is the goddess of the Ardennes forest. Things like that. Local rivers or lakes that typically had one or two gods devoted to them. Now that's just the localized, because a lot of these tribes had like their own like little pantheons, so to speak. But ones that there were a few that appeared multiple times, like Taranis and Lugos, Epona, Sucellos, appeared quite frequently. But like Arto and all these other deities are very, very localized.
Yeah. And so we do try to, this is going to be a very broad overview because there are so many. And if we try to track down the name of every single recorded Gaulish deity, we would be here for the rest of our lives.
I think Carnonos is working on something like that himself, where he's trying to look up every single inscription, and he's been doing that for, I want to say, at least 6 months.
Yeah, he's a determined gentleman, that one.
Yeah, bold endeavor that he's going. But that just kind of proves our point that there's way too many to cover in one episode. Just can't do it. Can't happen.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to just kind of generally go over the gods, some of the history, some of the syncretization. There we go. And just kind of generally talk about it. There are like Arto said, there are a few that kind of sync across everything. The big one is Taranis, Sucellos, Epona, weirdly Deuoi.
Yeah.
For which there is like zero of information really available for her. But she crops up everywhere.
Yeah. And it's a good thing that because I obviously Swiss deities I'm going to have a lot more knowledge about, and you're going to have more knowledge about Deuoi, who I know this much about.
Yeah, she's fun. Sorry. Also, you guys, if you see me pause in the middle of my talking and typing, that's because I am actually working while we're recording this, because it's the only time of day where me and Arto's schedule overlap. Is at the beginning of my work shift.
Yeah, multitasking.
Yes. All right. So Rome at some point in time tried to make sense of the Gaulish deities. and generally the gods of other cultures that they rolled over the top of. And how they did that is they would secretize them to the Roman deities. So what they would basically do is say, okay, well, this god seems a lot like this god, and we're just going to make them the same god.
Yeah,
it'll be fine. We're just going to smush them together.
You guys sound like our guy, probably our guy, just with a different name.
Yeah, you're definitely our guy. Now, the one deity, well, one of the deities that actually survived Rome and was adopted by the Romans was Epona. That's my alarm telling me I have to start my workday. Give me just 1 second. Rude of my phone. So Epona is a pretty awesome deity. I follow her. I might be slightly biased. But because of who she is and what she represents, she appealed not just to the Gauls, but to the Romans. She also appealed to the insular Celts. She appealed to everyone. And so she was sort of adopted throughout everything and actually kept her own name. I know she has also been secretized with Lady Godiva in Britain.
I believe so. Yeah, Lady Godiva. Rhiannon in Welsh folklore.
Yeah. And I believe occasionally she's syncretized with Maca, but I don't agree with that. So I don't.
Oh, that's the first I've heard of that.
Yeah, some people do that.
Yeah, but who doesn't like horses? That's why she's so popular.
Right? Who doesn't like horses in war back then? Everybody did. So, there we go.
Everybody was down with war back then.
Yes. Granted, war was very different for everybody except the Romans than it is now, but everybody liked her. She survived much more than almost any other deity.
I've seen more depictions and sculptures of Epona than I have anyone else.
She's super popular.
Yeah, she is. I mean, she's even in Switzerland. I haven't gotten to that part of my research yet, but she's in Switzerland too.
Yeah, horses were such a core part of society for travel, for battle, for farming, for everything. And she appealed to that side of them.
Absolutely,
yeah. Let's see. I can't pronounce those, so you get to do that next section with names.
Oh,
because Latin.
Just Latin. Oh, you're talking about the
yeah.
So yeah, gods would often be synced with Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, Apollo, Minerva, Vesta. Those are like the really popular ones. Especially like Mars and Mercury. I don't know why, but Rome just kind of thought that's all that Gaul worship was Mars and Mercury. There, any kind of thunder god like Taranis or Carnonos was always equated with Jupiter. And then for whatever reason, if they didn't fully Latinize anything, they would just kind of like piggyback the Roman name on top of the Gaulish name, like Caturix Mars and Matutinus Mercury, Jupiter Proninus. It's just a weird thing that they would do just to kind of mush them together and make them what would eventually lead to the Gallo-Roman religion, which is like this weird hybrid of Roman and Gaulish deities.
Which is actually how some of the deities survived, because more of Rome survived than Gaul, obviously. But Caesar liked to give fun descriptions. So he actually does name a few deities he believed that were the chief gods among the Gauls. Taranis, Isus, and Totatus. And he identified them as bloodthirsty gods who demanded human sacrifice. So here's the thing. We have no idea if they actually did demand human sacrifice or not. And we can't really take Caesar at his word because, let's be honest, he just has a slightly skewed opinion.
Just
Um,
like
so we don't actually know if human sacrifice was or wasn't normal. We don't know if it actually happened or not. Or if it was just maybe something that was centered on a couple of tribes. We genuinely don't have any idea. But you will see that crop up if you do read Caesar's writings.
And if you like, I know there's a documentary on HBO called Celts, Blood, Iron, and Sacrifice. I believe they said that a couple of tribes did do human sacrifice. I have to rewatch that. I don't even think I finished it the first time.
Ooh, I have HBO now. I should totally go watch that.
Yeah, it's.
I didn't even know it was there.
Yeah, I stumbled upon it by accident. It was amazing, but it's not even about like the insular Celts. It is about Gaul. It is awesome. But yeah, they definitely run with the theory that there was human sacrifice, and I have to rewatch it because I don't remember if they actually found evidence of it or not. But if they did, we don't know if that was across Gaul or if that was just a couple of tribes. We don't know. But like I believe Caesar in his memoirs, Taranis liked the Wicker Man, burning someone alive in that. Totaltus was drowning someone, and Zeus was hanging people. I don't know. It was very graphically descriptive and very specific that each of these gods had a particular sacrificial method.
To me, that sounds like Caesar was trying very hard to do some what's it called? Marketing.
Yeah, definitely a kind of a maybe not dehumanizing tactic, but definitely a oh, look at these wild savages.
A scare tactic.
Yeah.
But Caesar was also afraid of Gaulish women, and I feel like that was probably a smart plan. Now, many of the modern Gaul Pauls see Tautatus not as a god, but as a title, more than a specific actual Deuoi. It roughly means defender of the tribe, and there are a number of gods that can actually be a Tautatus of your individual practice, and it shouldn't necessarily be limited to deities. It could also be an ancestor. So that we're not sure if it is that there is an actual deity by that name, or if it was just a title that, like, let's say you live in a small town next to a big mountain, and that mountain's spirit or that mountain's god is the one who is worshipped as the defender because of how it's positioned. Or it could be that it's an actual god who was named Tautatus. We have no way of knowing because there's not a whole lot of what we would call written evidence.
I mean, I know I personally view it as the title because various, and I forgot to mention this earlier, the Gaulish term for god or goddess is Deuoi and Deuoi.
Mm-hmm.
But like I like the example you're going with. We have Brigantia, who's a very Athena-esque Deuoi, very popular. She popped up quite a bit as well. She was she was a hearth goddess, but a warrior, a warrior goddess as well. So she could have been a Totaltis, or I think that's not the feminine version of that word, but you get what I'm going at.
I got you.
Yeah, she could have fit the bill too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it, in my opinion, for my practice, it really is just a title. For me and my personal practice, it is one that is assigned to one of my ancestors, a specific ancestor. And so I use that for him, her, them. I'm not sure what gender they are. Hard to tell.
Well, for me personally, I have quite a few protective deities in my practice, but if I were to name anyone as a totaltis, it would probably be Divico, who was an actual person. I venerate them as a protective, like guardian spirit in a way.
Mhm.
That's who I see as my totaltis.
Okay. Um, Now, moving along, Gaulish gods are pretty multifunctional. Ardeo is a bear goddess, but her functions are a lot more than that. So she also does a protector, she's a guide, things like that. Now, I think, don't you worship Artio Articados?
I do. I
Why
do.
don't you
That's where
take this one away? Because I don't. I just see Artio and I go, that looks like somebody I'm good not having to fear pissing off.
right you are, because I've done that and it's not fun. But yeah, Artio is definitely one of my main deities. It's where the Arto comes from in my name. She's the great mother bear. She's a protective guardian, a guide. She performs a lot of motherly functions. uh, in my personal experience, she's very wise and very stern. Definitely not someone to piss off, and I've done that. I've done that on 2 different occasions, and I got violently ill both times I did that. And I mentioned in the last episode that I made an offering of green beans. Shouldn't have done that. The other time, I believe she has numerous children. I don't know. At the time. Didn't know who they were. I have ideas now, but I was being very persistent trying to identify them. And I literally woke up with one of my runas not in my little. Well, if I can reach it. Not in here. Not in here. It was under my back when I was sleeping. I woke up with it under my back. No idea how it got there. And it was a runa that is specifically related to Artio. Kind of a message saying, not right now. Back off on that. And of course, I didn't listen, and I got violently ill just a few hours later. Because I'm smart like that.
Hey, look, sometimes humans are slow.
Yeah. But and this is kind of a little hint for those who are interested in reconstruction, because she is a bear goddess. She goes into hibernation. So during that time, she kind of goes in this deep meditative kind of trance sleep stasis. So she could be related to meditation, trance, entering the dream state. So she could be a goddess of dreams. I know some devotees, viewers, that I do too. I never really experienced that, but it makes sense to me. But that's the kind of thought process that helps reconstruct a lot of these deities. And so when people just say, "Oh, she's just a bear goddess," well, what else is there to that? You just got to look a little deeper.
Okay. All right. Now, I know that another thing that's mentioned a lot is by the Romans is the Gaulish Mercury.
The big GM.
The big GM. It's actually still a debated topic along with a lot of Gaulish polytheists now. Mostly because there's a lot of deities that can be equated to Mercury. Most commonly, it seems to be Lugus or Carnonos. Lugus most commonly, but there are some things that point at Carnonos as well. The similarities between Lugus and the Irish Lou are kind of the bridge between the bridge to making him the Gaulish Mercury. But there are a lot of statues and carvings of Mercury alongside 2 figures, one of them being a horned god, which could be Carnonos or Pan. Now, I worship Carnonos and do not do syncretism of any sort. His altar is right. Oh gosh, where is his altar? Oh, his altar's right there. You can't see it.
Yeah, I have my little carving right here of him.
Yeah. So I look at it and I'm just like, now Carnonos is a deity of liminality. He is the gatekeeper between the worlds. So our world and the other world, and usually is the Deuoi who leads a lot of people to a lot of the Gaulish polytheists that we have, kind of got led here by Carnonos. I know I was. Carnonos has been with me my whole life, and I just didn't know it. I actually didn't even know that he was a Gaulish deity until like a year ago. I, like many people, thought he was Irish. And I was incorrect.
Carnonos is one of the first deities I was involved with as well. I was aware of Gaul, and I knew he was a Gaulish god way before I started listening to like Druidcast, and they were talking about him like he was Irish or Scottish. But yeah, like in the Gaul chat server on Discord, a lot of people come in, saying that Carnonos kind of brought them there, and then they're kind of dumbfounded when they realize that he is not. He's not on those islands at all. He's mainland.
Nope. There are a lot of Gaelic polytheists and like Welsh and things like that who do worship Carnonos, but again, in polytheism, you have a lot of crossover. It may not even be necessarily syncretism, just as the way modern society is, you wind up with a lot of things from a lot of different cultures. Like I have the Morgan, who's Gaelic, and then I also have Cáttabódwa, who's Gaulish. I have the Nix, who's Greek, and then I also have Carnonos, who's Gaulish. It's, you kind of wind up with this a lot of the time, this kind of weird amalgam of personal worship.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. There's a lot of eclectic pagans out there, and it's actually kind of cool that they have like their own like little mix and match, personal pantheon that they follow, and I think that's really neat. I mean, I follow Gaulish and Norse, so
yeah, and it's, you wind up with quite a bit of an eclectic sort of makeup. Now we do have some who purely worship only Gaulish deities, like I know Nelos, I believe it is, only worships Gaulish deities. Branos only, Branos, I believe, only worships Gaulish deities.
I think he's mentioned others before, but I don't know for certain, but yeah, he only ever really talks about Gaulish.
Yeah. But with the world being the way it is, and the lack of availability of information for us as Gaulish polytheists, we do wind up temporarily holding on to things until we find a way to work it into our practice. And then a lot of the time, because let's say, the Morgan I've been with for a hot minute, she'll be with me always. I am dedicated to her. That doesn't make me any less dedicated to Cáttabódwa, who's like a primal elder version, I guess, if you want to put it into like sort of a pop culture speak version. And to me, she is separate. Like she's 100% different. They are not the same deity. Now they have the same similar areas of responsibility, but Cáttabódwa is Gaulish and Morgan is Irish.
Yeah, and every deity should be respected as individuals
for who they are.
And an example that I've used is you go out in the world. Say if you're unlike us, you're a very extroverted person. You like to go meet people. You're gonna notice there are a lot of people very similar to each other. It doesn't like I have a cousin and I have a friend that I work with at work. Very similar, very they say a lot of the similar things. They like the similar TV shows, books, movies, whatever. That does not make them the same person. They are very different. They're clearly different because they're two different people. They just happen to be very, very, very similar. And if you can find that within people, you can definitely find that within the gods. That just because they are very similar does not mean that they are the same.
Exactly. 1 second. Let's see. Sorry, go ahead. I'm looking something up and can't find it.
Actually,
Now,
I'll go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'll go ahead and something I was going to add in the notes that I'll just talk about now. Another figure that Caesar talked about is someone named Dispater, which I think means Father Dis. I believe that's what it means. I don't know Latin.
It does. That's. I don't know what dis is, but I know that Potter is father.
Yeah, and this was another a figure that Caesar names. But the thing is, there's no inscription that I'm aware of. Branos may have found something, I don't know, but there's no description of a dis anywhere in Gaul. So, but I think based on Caesar's account, most likely the Dispater was probably Sucellos. That's just a popular opinion. I think others have disagreed with it, but the reason we say that is because Sucellos is often believed to be the ants, like the not the is ancestor. Oh no, I'm sorry. So Sucellos is like kind of the creator of humanity, and Dispater is kind of lumped in that same has that same attribute that he is the father of the Gaulish people. So I think that's where a lot of people get the conclusion that Dispater is actually Sucellos that Caesar just wanted to rename for shits and giggles.
Because why not? So I want to go ahead, because we have so many attested deities for Gaul and Gaulish speaking places. I want to go ahead and just go over a few that are more of the big names, that the ones that are more widespread. So you've heard us mention Taranis. Taranis is associated with thunder. His name literally means thunder. Lightning, sky, rain, truth, order, things like that. And he is he is worshipped by a lot of the common people. He is known for wielding a club or a thunderbolt, and a wheel, which represents the sky, the truth, and cosmic order. So you'll see in a lot of people who are Gaulish polytheists, you'll see them wear like a little wheel with spokes, and that is Taranis' wheel. There is, like we said, Epona, who is associated with horses. The land, sovereignty, fertility, harvests. She is also a goddess of war, particularly the cavalry, which is why Rome loved her and why she survived Rome, and why she is depicted so much in not just the Gaulish stuff, but also with Roman. And like we said, she got everywhere. She wound up everywhere because Rome wound up everywhere. And the Gauls themselves weren't exactly in a small location. They were pretty widespread. Brigantia, go ahead.
I'm sorry. They were very migratory. And like you mentioned earlier, horses were a very highly valued commodity. If you had horses, you could go places.
Yep. There's Brigantia. Brigantia is associated with war, high places, protection, and then possibly the strategic aspects of battle. She is a hearth deity, so she is often associated with breed as well from Ireland. But again, different deities, different places, different cultures. She is depicted with spears, swords, a globe of victory, then the little, what's it called, with a Gorgon's head. Sorry, that was snakes. Not that was particularly a descriptive motion. That was supposed to be snakes.
I was trying. I had images going in my head like I'm Pictionary.
I'm terrible at Pictionary. All right. And then we've got Carnonos, who is trade, wealth, bidirectionality, liminality, large rivers. He is always depicted with horns. Now, here's the interesting part, is we don't know that his depiction with horns is that he has horns or that it is a crown of sorts or a headpiece of some sort. Now, if I remember correctly, I want to say the Gunstrip Cauldron depicts it more as like a head thing, not necessarily actual horns.
Yeah, I think that's where the the question kind of came from, is it actually growing out of his head, or is it like kind of a crown?
Yeah.
Because yeah, if you look closely at the image on the Gunnerstrap cauldron, which I actually might have an image right here. Hang on one quick second. I have my handy dandy ancient fire book right next to me.
Mine is somewhere on the shelf behind me. Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
I have one too.
Woo! So we have this image here, which is on the Gunnerstrap cauldron. Let me line it up. Probably disoriented for you guys watching.
That's good. It's good enough.
But if you look closely at those horns, they don't really look like they're coming out of his head. They're more like sitting on top of his head.
Yeah.
And another thing you'll notice. Oh,
I dropped my bookmark.
Oh. Another thing you'll notice is that there's a big difference between him and Pan, is that he doesn't have goat feet. He has human feet. He's got little tootsie.
He has toeses, whereas Pan has the hooves.
Yeah. And that when neo-paganism came about, and I want to say like the 1800s, I'm not exactly sure. I didn't do that much research on that particular topic. But when paganism was starting to come back, people just kind of started mushing these horn gods together, like Baphomet, Pan, Carnonos. I don't know where Elena of the Ways came from, but she just kind of popped up. And you have horn deities all over the place. I actually found out recently. I even found out recently there's a couple of Native American deities. I think there's one in the Iroquois tribe that has deer antlers as well. But anyway, but because Pan and Carnunos kind of got synchronized in a modern sense, especially when neo-Druidry and Wicca started to come about. So Pan or Carnunos started to get little goat feet because people kind of synced them together.
Yeah, just kind of snatched it together with syncretization. But he also is depicted with a torque, sometimes with antlers, and sometimes with a ram horned serpent, which I think is awesome. But I love snakes.
I want to see that snake. I want to see a snake with ram horns.
Me too. Then there's also Nantasvelta. She is a goddess of valleys and domesticity, with underworld associations, as she is depicted with a raven. She's also shown with a house on a pole and a beehive. Nantasvelta is actually one of the deities I just started worshiping not very long ago, and she is lovely. She's nice.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I have my book right here, but I'm not going to look at it. I'm not a professional. But I believe her name means she of the valley, or the valley of the.
I think it's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So and she's very Persephone like for you Hellenists out there listening to this.
Yeah. My goal actually is hopefully next year I want to get a little beehive to keep for her.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Which I think would be awesome. And then we've got Sucellos, who is known for his big old mallet, and depicted with holding a cup with it as well. He's associated with the underworld, but he's also shown with dogs, agriculture, and growing grapes for wine.
Yeah, he's kind of a lot of modern like TV shows and movies. If you have an underworld god, they always make them scary, like the Hercules cartoon, which I do love that cartoon.
You do.
They made Hades evil as hell. Pun there. Whereas he's really not. A lot of these underworld deities really aren't that evil.
It's the associate with the underworld being necessarily just the realm of the dead, but it's not necessarily just the realm of the dead. So it is just kind of an assumption that it comes from Christianization.
Yes, exactly, because death is bad. So if any god is associated with death, they're going to be bad. But Sucellos, yeah, he's the Gaulish god of the underworld, but he's very festive. Like he's got that wine associations. So I've always assumed that to be like he kind of runs the hall of the ancestors type of thing. And when you cross over, you just kind of hang out and just party. Hey, you lived a full life. Fucking kick back and drink some wine.
Just hang out for a bit. And then we've got Sirona, who I actually really want to do more research on because I do worship Nyx. And she is shown with a star diadem, snakes and eggs. She's associated with wells and healing, but also presumably with night and dawn or dusk, because her name does mean astral or divine star.
And I'm not a personal devotee, but whenever I do a ritual or something at night, I do try to include Sirona, because I think she's people try to throw in the moon, where we don't know if that's necessarily what she's associated with, but the morning star. So like you said, the dawn. So the planet Venus, I think we had a big discussion about this in Gold Chat like a year or so ago. But yeah, like the night, the night
Yeah,
skies.
and for me, I've always worshipped Nyx because Nyx has been in my life my whole life. And so I want to look into Sirona as well, because they are similar in what they do. Nyx is the personification of night, while Sirona also is the personification of night. At least that's the way it feels for me. Yeah. And I'm trying to decolonize a lot of my practice. And she feels very similar, maybe a little less aggressively chthonic than Nyx, who is pretty aggressively chthonic. But that might just be because she comes off differently.
Yeah.
So I think that she's going to be interesting. I'm not quite there yet because I am just not prepared for that yet. but it is part of my plan. Once I have an outdoor space, I can set up an altar for her. Awesome. Because I don't feel like an indoor space is the right place to set up an altar for Sirona. And then we've got Lugus, who is associated with commerce, wealth, oaths, warfare. He's depicted with 3 faces, which could be a signification of association with travel, though it's also thought that he is a god of skills and trades. He is often confused with or syncretized with Lu out of Irish.
Yeah, and there's also Irish. There's a Welsh god named, I think it's, I hate trying to pronounce Welsh things, but it's like Lou, or there's a
Lug, or regardless, insular Celt version as well. And they try and there's been a lot of synchronization between the two because they do cover some similar places. But again, as polytheists, both of us are of the opinion that each deity is their own being unto themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then we have Rosmerta, who her name means the great provider. She is usually depicted alongside the Gaulish Mercury or Lugus. She holds a purse and a cornucopia, and she is a goddess of fertility and wealth.
Now, a lot of modern Gaulish polytheists have kind of associated her with divination as well. So I know on Branos' site, he sells runas, and I believe on his pamphlet, he does include Rosmerta as one of the providers of the runas.
And then we've got Ogmios. I don't have any experience with Ogmios. He is spoken more of in accounts than in inscriptions. One Roman account speaking of him holding chains on his tongue and a soft and gold into the ears of his followers. They go with him willingly. He is shown with a club, a bow, and skins like Hercules. He is an example of how a god of another people is taken into Gaulish religion and made theirs. And he is depicted at very advanced in age, and with someone who speaks with eloquence, which for the Gauls is one of the strongest things one of the greatest strengths you can have is to speak with eloquence.
Whereas you don't have experience with them, I do. Like I was just showing off.
Zero experience.
I show up a little idol for him. He's strength and eloquence. So strength, physical strength, and eloquence. So he can speak in a way that binds, which is the chains running from his tongue to the ears of warriors. Um, so whatever he says, they do. Which is why he's often given kind of a psychopomp status as well. That um, he helps guide spirits to Carnonos, who then helps them cross over. That's a little cosmetology that a lot of us are reconstructing. But yes, the club and the bow and the lion pelt, which is very Herculean. And I know Nello's talked about it in our
Mhm.
Caligula episode. Um, he's considered to be the original Gaul, the father of the Gaulish people. Um, yeah, he's very very cool. I've worked with him quite a bit. I have him on my altar in my little ancestral corner.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I remember correctly, he is more like an ancestor who has been elevated to godhood.
Yes, yes, and that's something we'll definitely get into with our heroes and ancestors episode is veneration of real people into godhood.
Yeah. Then we've got Artio, who is actually, I believe, RTU, RT.
There's different ways to pronounce it. I've always just gone with RTO because it's easier. It
Yeah.
rolls off.
And she is depicted with bears. Her name is related to the Gaulish word for them, and because of that, she's a goddess of seasonal cycles.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I have an idol for her as well, but it's the biggest one I have, so I'm not reaching over to grab it.
fair. And then we have Belanos, who is a widely worshipped god associated with light, healing, springs, governs war, is said to have defended Aquileia, Italy during a siege. He's also associated with horses and the solar wheel. So he's not necessarily a sun god, though he could be, but a god with a solar connection.
Yeah. This is definitely a question. This is definitely someone that Nello should be sitting in on because this is his boy.
That is not, I have zero experience with Belanos. I'm betting though that for Hellenes, this would be like Apollo, who is not necessarily a sun god, but a solar god.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have zero experience, but yeah, I think Apollo would be the best source to draw from.
Yeah. And then we have Katu Bodwa. The way Katu Bodwa is spelled is Kathu Bodwa, but the H in the Gaulish is silent. Her name does mean battle crow. She is a chooser of the slain, a goddess of war, and then presumably as that she carries them the fall into the next life. I love working with Katu Bodwa. She is terrifying and intense and demanding, but and also very ancient. Like how she feels is very primal. It would be like interacting with a primordial deity in a different. We don't have primordials in Gaulish, but for the reference of people who are not Gaulish, she is the, like, for me, like working with a primordial deity. She is she's a lot. She's a lot. And there's not a lot written about her. We don't know a lot about her beyond what I've just stated. And then of course personal gnosis, which I have plenty of with her. And then we've got Isis. Isis is shown in relief either tending or pruning a tree with either an axe or a billhook. He could be tending a grove and preparing it for sacrifice. It could be any number of things. We don't know a lot about him, but he does suggest a connection with magic, which I find interesting and would like to explore more of, because I am a witch and I do practice magic.
I did I do a divination reading to help me better understand the Deuoi. It's part of my reconstruction process. I did do this for Izus for a BNG article, and it was really interesting. The kind of message I got was that it's cyclical. Like he helps get rid of the old, the dead, the something that's not useful anymore, and makes way for something that is useful, clearing the way, maintaining the grove, maintaining the nematon.
Yeah, which I find really, really interesting. And then we also have Suleya, whose name means the good guide. She's worshipped. She's also worshipped in triplicates, invoked as a guide or a guardian of places and people, including home and families. I don't have any experience with her either, but now this was just to kind of give you a brief overview of some of the more well-known, broadly worshipped deities. And you can definitely find that information on GaulishPolytheism.com, which is definitely where I pulled it from, like any good researcher. I pulled it off GaulishPolytheism.com. Now, the other thing that we haven't covered is the mattress. Mattress.
So, like the Selawia, like they're a set of three goddesses, and it's in my little bit of research that I've done so far, because the Matris and the Selawia are on my list of gods and goddesses to cover. They're depicted and they're mentioned all over the place, and not just in Gaul, like in Germany, uh, just everywhere. And they're very similar to like the Norse Norns, the Greek Fates, because the matron, the matras, are commonly seen and associated with fate, time, um, destiny. But based on those statues and reliefs and depictions, they're also seen with like cornucopias and the uh, like baskets of fruit. So they're also kind of related to prosperity, abundance. Um, at least that's from what I've seen.
Okay. Now this episode, no joke, is probably going to be a lot shorter than most of our other ones, just because there's so many deities, attested deities, in Gaul and Gaulish speaking places. We don't have the ability to go over tons and tons and tons of them. This is just sort of wanting to give you a general overview of deities in general and kind of explain it a little bit.
Yeah, and like Branogara said, if you go on GaulishPolytheism.com, not just on the Tauta Galatian site, but on my site, on Branos' site, because it's a hub for all these different resources, and someone's covered at least one of these main deities, as well as all these different smaller tribal ones. And there's just no way we could even cover just the main ones, because I believe we forgot to mention Camulos, who's
who's a war deity,
war deity who wears a ram skull. And how badass is that?
His altar's right there.
Right on.
Up out of the picture, but it's up in the top corner.
There's just it's so much to cover, and we'll probably do like individual deities further on down the road. We don't know yet, but this is just like a general overview of the kind of the main set, some of the smaller tribal ones, and like just how the Gauls saw them,
and how we see them as well.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap that up then. And we are going to move on to our final virtue for Tutaglation, which is Inrextus. There we go.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? In my promotion, Ancient Fire, which you can find on Amazon.
Which was written by Segamaris.
Mm-hmm. In the back, he's got a pronunciation section, which I've been using a lot recently. It's, rectus. So, yeah.
Okay. And this means integrity and a rectitude. And Tutaglation, we believe in Inrextus is showing integrity, and not only by living the values you espouse, by facing your inner truth and speaking out with honesty, as well as following through with everything you say with consistency, perseverance, and to completion. Now, tell me, Articados, how that incorporates into your life and practice.
Well, I am. This is something I've been teaching my kids, so this is definitely something I could go on and on about. There's nothing worse than just not being able to trust someone. Just when, like, especially if you know that they're flat out lying to you, like I know my kids have done. So I've talked to them about integrity, just even when no one's watching, doing the right thing. This is something that was instilled in me not only as a Marine, but by my parents as well. Is that it's to the point where I, like, on a deep personal level, I don't feel right lying. Uh,
At all.
yeah, uh, and like I have a little personal story. So my mom was up here recently, and in episode 1, I had mentioned how I've kind of kept my, polytheistic beliefs to myself. I've not told my immediate family. Well, I finally felt it was time to kind of come out of the broom closet, if you will, to my mom, who was up here. Timing was right. Um, and not only was she um, supportive, but she has been kind of my Dawn King, if you will. She went back to California. The person next to her on the plane, a couple of kids she ran into at an Apple store. She's like promoting my WordPress site. It's like, oh, my son's into this Gaulish stuff. Why don't you look at his website? So yeah, she's been my promoter.
That's awesome. Go mom.
Yeah, absolutely awesome. But the reason that really drove me to do that, because I honestly, if I had never said anything, nothing would have changed really. Like, but I hated keeping that secret from her, because I knew out of all my family, she would have understood and be supportive the most. And personally, I'm very open and honest with people. I do not like keeping secrets. I do not like lying. It's just something that's been ingrained into me, like, from the get-go. Um, and plus, I'm not a very good liar. It's never panned out well for me at all.
And it takes so much work.
It's so much. You have to remember, it's like it's it's like watching a movie and having to remember the plot point to a movie you didn't even like.
Yep. Episode 6. Okay. All right. And for me, I'm very similar. I don't like having to try and remember lies, or I don't feel good about doing it. So it's something that I try and keep if I don't, how do I explain this? So as a kid, you're taught, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. And if I know that giving my blunt, honest opinion is going to hurt unnecessarily, I just don't. I just avoid it altogether and just don't give an opinion, rather than give platitudes or white lies. And I think that in regards to the community, the only way you can build a solid and stayed community is to make sure that you have consistency and perseverance and honesty and integrity, not just among the leadership, but among everybody else as well. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have that consistency and perseverance, if you don't keep it to everything and finish things through, then it's very difficult to keep a community healthy and happy and thriving.
Exactly. And if there's no trust within that tribe or community, then things are bound to fall apart. Things are going to unravel, and it spirals out from there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, this was our last Tutigation. Why do I keep forgetting this word? Virtue. I always forget the word. And starting next month, we're actually going to switch over to Cenobessus Bolgon's version of virtues. And that will be until we finish through them. We'll be doing every month. We'll go over a Cenobessus Bolgon virtue instead of a Tutegalation. Once we finish with them, then we'll move over to B&G's virtues as well. I like to be able to go through each. Like Tutegalation is not a oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm super tired. So my brain just keeps forgetting whole words.
It happens.
Word for group of people together inside of Gaulish polytheism. Tradition. Tutegalation is not a tradition, but we do have our virtues. But B&G and Cenobessus Bolgon are both traditions within Gaulish polytheism, and I want to be able to give theirs as well. They're going to be similar in some ways and different in other ways, but we're going to be going over them individually too. Now.
Absolutely. And we're, the whole point of this podcast is to promote Gaulish polytheism in general, not just Tutegalation, not just B&G, not just like we want to promote everyone. And if other traditions start to pop up, we'll probably help them.
Shoot us an email. Let us at your website. Let us know and we'll happily bring you on in. I know next season we're going to go over in depth the various traditions as well as Tutegalation too. But that's not till next season, so you guys are going to have to wait because we have a full season already. Now next month we are going to have Selguirus. Oh my gosh, how do I pronounce his last name? Give me a second. Karantiknos, Selguirus, Karantiknos. I always call him Selg. That's what I think everybody calls him.
Yeah, everyone calls him
Selg. Who's one of the leaders in Cenobessus Bolgon is going to be on with us to discuss ancestor worship and heroes in Gaulish polytheism, which is the next section of Oh My Gods, part 2. Now, make sure that you do pop into our Patreon to support us, which would be super awesome. We do have one Patreon supporter right now, and that is Sarenth Odinson from Around Grandfather Fire. So thank you so much, Sarenth. We appreciate your support.
Our new best friend.
We had so much fun on their podcast. It was so much fun. Really enjoyed it. And again, you can find us all over the social medias. I know I have been particularly quiet as I've been trying to get another podcast off the ground. I've been hyper focused on it. But now that we've got it launched and I've got a schedule worked out.
If you like dogs.
My other podcast is Let's Talk Dogs podcast. And it is me, who is not a dog trainer. I'm just a dog owner. And 3 professional dog trainers, basically on a round table. And it's a lot of fun. We have a good time.
Real quick, I showed some of my little idols that I've made.
Yeah, you do some pretty awesome work.
Thank you. I'm taking on commissions now. I've started a little, I think it's a little too soon to call it business, but it is a way to try to make some extra money. But I do, I make idols. I make all kinds of stuff. I'm actually working on coasters right now. I'm going to add it onto the site, and I'm saving up to get a fort so I can start making stuff out of metal, and I'm going to start selling that too. But yeah,
it's freaking cool.
Yeah. Helvetian Hands on Facebook. That's the only place to really find it right now. Or you can just shoot me personally a message on Discord, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you find me. If you want to, my stuff's fairly cheap for right now. I don't really see a need to charge.
That might change with demand.
It might change with demand. I know when my mom was up here, she was like, "You're only charging $5 for for something like this. I'm like, yeah, it's fun for me, and it's not hard to make. She's like, well, I don't know, I would charge like $20 for that. So maybe in time if the demand goes up.
Yeah. But make sure you tune into us on our various methodologies of listening, which is every major podcast carrier we are on. But also our YouTube. I am catching up on uploading all of our episodes to YouTube. And this episode will actually be our first audio visual episode where you get to see our pretty faces.
Oh, yes. And all my beard.
And Artocados' beard of bigness that he's got happening there. I just shaved my beard off, so you know it's nice.
And my untrimmed beard that my fiance refers to as hobo chic.
But yeah, so this will be our first episode where we do an audio visual episode, as we have switched over to Zoom, which has a much clearer audio for Artocados than our previous recording method.
Discord doesn't like me.
It does not like him at all, not even kind of. But again, you can find us on Twitter as GaulCast Podcast, I believe. On Instagram as GaulCast, and on Facebook as GaulCast. You can find us on Patreon as GaulCast, and all of our various ways to get a hold of us will be listed below in the description, like it always is. Well, I think it'll actually be a link to our link tree, which then pops us into all of the various ways you can communicate with us. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. Our email is gaulcast@gmail.com. If you have questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, anything like that, please don't hesitate to let us know. Would you want to add, Arto?
Yeah, speaking of which, thank you for reminding me. We actually have a question.
Ooh, yeah.
They technically gave me two, but one was about non-Gaulish stuff, so I just kind of left it where it was. So let me see if I can find it. Well, maybe hang on. I remember when I was first reading this, they presented it in a weird way, and I had a hard time figuring what the hell they were asking me. Okay, well, what this person was trying to get at is why we have Gaulish gods that are mentioned, but gods like Wodan and Donar didn't really get mentioned, because this person initially found Gaulish polytheists from Carnonos, go figure.
Mm-hmm.
Then that led. I think I'm assuming their pronoun is her, so forgive me if that's not correct, but
we'll just use they.
They, okay. They rolled onto this niche path through Carnonos, and then Wodan. They looked at Norse heathenism first, but then that didn't really fit their path. Now they're exploring continental heathenism. When they listened to all the gods mentioned, Wodan and Donar didn't really get mentioned. Why is that? Well, in that episode, because they were talking about the animism one, we weren't really focusing on the Deuoi just yet. And this, technically this is a Gaulish podcast, so we were mainly focusing on the Gaulish.
Those are Nordic gods, if I recall correctly.
Germanic.
Germanic, yeah.
Wodan and Donar, as they went north, turned into Odin and Thor, or Odin and Thor. Let me see. I think the other question was. Oh, here's the question I was going to mention. Do we cover a certain time period with Gaulish polytheism? Technically, the answer would be the Iron Age. If we had more information on the Bronze and Stone Age, we probably would cover that too. But there really isn't much on it. I know there was a trial there was a tribe in northern Italy and southern Switzerland that was particularly known for carving on rocks. They're actually mentioned in that HBO documentary I told you about.
Yeah.
But nothing really before the Iron Age. And actually, I think the first time Gauls even really mentioned was by, or at least the Helvetii tribe were mentioned by Pliny the Elder, and that story may not even have actually happened. That it's more of a mythical account.
Yeah.
But yeah, until we find more evidence prior to the Iron Age, we're mainly focusing on the Iron Age because that's really all we got right now.
Yeah. That would be it. All right.
Yeah.
You have anything else for us tonight?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, then, y'all have a super wonderful evening, and please do tune in next month as well.
Yep. See you guys then.